Hi, welcome to the small shed. Today I'm dealing with the table on the new workbench. See you in a minute. Now I've just had a package delivered which I think is the remaining aluminium that I wanted for the tabletop of the MFT cart. Have a look and see, because there's a couple of other pieces in there which will be of interest. Now, in addition to the tabletop lengths and a revised set of back pillars which I may or may not use, I've also bought a length of a quadrant section for the cart. I'm hoping that will form my handle section at the back. Now this is the starting point for it all, the actual MFT 3 workbench, and the reason this is the starting point is that the table which fits on the cart also in the Festool version clips onto this rail and gives you effectively a side table that extends the tabletop. So it's got to end up with the table at that level as far as I'm concerned. This is not something that's essential for anybody that hasn't got an MFT, that just wants a workbench. So I will say that now. But I'm essentially working to this, which I think is 900mm. I'm pretty certain that's the height that the MFT3 comes in at. Yeah, 900mm. That's the workstation height. Now, some time ago, this thing has been bubbling up for maybe 6 months or more. Some time ago, when I started playing with this aluminium section, more out of idleness than anything, I think, I started playing with it and found that it was quite easy to clip it onto the MFT workbench, pretty much in the same way that the MFT table, the MW1000 work table fits. It just clips on. Now, there was a very minor inconsistency with it, and I could show it better, I think, with the 80x40, in that if you're not careful, that is not quite flat. It climbs away slightly, so I think it needs a little bit of work. And when I looked at it closely, I found on a little piece of this, if you actually just file, and it's that small an alteration, I can hardly even see it on this one, one of the faces, that one, just file that face down very slightly. I shall probably end up milling this out with a router, but if you do that, it just allows that piece to just sit slightly further back, and it is only literally 0.5 millimetre taking an angle off. But if you do that, you can then get a parallel to the work surface line going out that way. So essentially what's going to happen is that the table will be 4 sides of that, which is fairly straightforward, just bolts together with end caps on it, that will clip onto there like that, and that will provide a table that will work. And then that will happen on the the work cart, the MW1000 work cart, or my clone of it. That will somehow connect to it in the same manner. The other thing I want to deal with is actually drilling the holes for access to the Torx screws themselves, tighten them up on the corner joints. So I'm going to start off just making a jig to enable me to dig the holes in the aluminium, which are about 10 or 15 mil down, to put those vertically and in exactly the right place. So I've just made a little timber jig, put that in the vertical drilling machine, and that will hopefully get me somewhere a little bit closer than I am at the moment. So if that is 88 millimeters to there, 16 millimeters on top of that, which will take me to the point I want the hole drilled, is 104 millimeters, and that is precisely the distance from the vertical pillar on the pillar drill to where it cuts when you drill a hole. Now I've put a V cutter in the router, put the feather boards on, so that should just take off the very inside edge there of the aluminium section. At the moment it just slides over, and I'll gradually bring it up to suit. It is only really a hair to come up. Put the feather boards on to stop it climbing up too high. The feather boards don't work that way because they're too far away, so I'm going to put another piece of aluminium in between the two. That way it clamps that aluminium reasonably firmly in there. Right, so that's taken that off. Now I'll run a file along it and a bit of sandpaper just to tidy, emery paper just to tidy it up. But it's done all I think it needs to do. That will now hang on to there. I'll get my big fat belly out of the way. Same way as the MFT, the MW1000 fits, and then it just clips onto the end there. Now at the moment, very slight fall down that way now, which is great because I've got some feet. You can then just level there. There's probably about 10 mil, 15 mil of levelling to do on the feet. Now I'm just going to do a test pass on the router to put a chamfer which will go on the top edge of the work tables. The reason I'm doing the top first is that if I screw it up and get it wrong, or the angle's too deep, or the cut's too deep, I can then take that damage out by turning it over and doing the rebate, which will take that piece out. But we'll just check it out first and see what it looks like. Now I've rebated the bottom of the tables about 6mm, which I think is about right. I've got a little bit of adjustment if I need it, but then that should go on top and drop just inside the section there, and then that should and is be dead level with the MFT. So the table itself is now as solid as the MFT is. I mean, it's rocking, but that's because the MFT is rocking. But it's a solid table. That just needs the top physically fixing down. I'm not sure whether to go from underneath. I think I'll probably do that with just a little screw in each corner through a triangle of plywood or MDF in the gusset of the 4040. Sand it, give it the coat of something to seal it, and then I shall leave it at that, because the hole spacings will be done at the very end, last thing to do, because I want to get the spacings to line up with the MFT, and then they've got to line up with the MW1000 work table itself. So that's another good milestone done. Now, to hold the tabletop on and locate it, you can see that there's a 6mm rebate round the edge which pushes some of the tabletop down into the gap in the middle of the 4040 aluminium. That should be enough to put a 9mm spacer in there, and then another piece of 9mm will slot right into the corners. Cut that as a triangle, screw through both layers and into the worktop, and that gives you a solid fixing. No top fixings that you get on the MFT table with bits of metal sticking through. This will be basically just within the thickness of the 6mm rebate, really, I would imagine. Well, that's got the tabletop and table itself finished. I've got to put the holes in for the dogs yet, but that will be something that ties in when the whole thing is finished, and I'll probably do that in the completion video just to show how I've worked all that through, because I want it to tie in with the MW3 workbench as well. So next week we'll get on, put some legs on this thing, and hopefully get it up on its feet and attached to the cart itself. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye.